Your father that thinks you are a curse, and I will make you a good child. You will hold the power of life and death. He will live to see the day he begs for the mercy of a girl.
Chinedu lay on the cold hospital bed, his breath coming in short, painful gasps. His eyes, once full of fire and authority, were now clouded with fear. He looked at the heart monitor, watching the little green line dance erratically. Outside the glass door of the intensive care unit, his current wife and his 2 sons were arguing, not about his health, but about who would get the keys to the warehouse in Onitsha. Before we dive into this incredible story of karma, betrayal, and the power of a mother's love, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that touches the soul and teaches us the lessons of life. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We love to hear from our global family. Chief Chinedu felt a tear roll down his cheek. He had everything money could buy, but he was dying alone. Suddenly the door opened. A tall, elegant woman in a white lab coat stepped in. Her presence was commanding, her eyes sharp and cold behind her glasses. She looked at his medical file, then looked directly into his eyes. Chief Chinedu didn't recognize her. But she recognized him. She remembered the exact smell of the rain on the night he threw her and her mother out like garbage. She remembered the sound of the heavy iron gates slamming shut, leaving a 3-day-old baby and a bleeding mother in the dark. She leaned down, her voice a deadly whisper that only he could hear. "Do you remember me, Chief? You said a girl was a curse. You said a daughter couldn't carry your name. Well, look at me now. I am the only one standing between you and the grave." Chief Chinedu's heart rate spiked. The monitors began to beep frantically. The very curse he threw away 20 years ago was now the only god who could save his life. Now let's go back to where it all began. 20 years ago, Chief Chinedu Okafor was the king of his world. He was a man who believed that a man's strength was measured by the number of sons in his house. His wife, Amaka, was a gentle soul who had endured years of pressure. Chinedu had told her, "Amaka, if this 3rd pregnancy is not a boy, do not bother coming back from the hospital. A man of my status cannot have a house full of skirts. Who will take over my multi-million naira empire? Who will bear the Okafor name?" Amaka had prayed every night. She fasted. She went to doctors and herbalists, all in a desperate bid to produce a son for the man she loved. But fate had a different plan. The day Amaka went into labor, the rain was pouring as if the heavens were crying. Chinedu sat in his living room drinking expensive cognac, waiting for the call. When the phone finally rang, it was his sister, Ngozi. "Chinedu," she said, her voice trembling. "Amaka has delivered. It is a beautiful, healthy baby girl." Chinedu didn't celebrate. He didn't ask if his wife was okay. He smashed his glass of cognac against the marble wall. "Another girl?" he thundered. "A 3rd curse upon my house? I am done." He drove to the hospital like a madman. He didn't go with flowers. He went with a suitcase. He walked into the maternity ward, ignoring the nurses who tried to congratulate him. He reached Amaka's bed where she lay pale and exhausted, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. "Chinedu, look at her," Amaka whispered, tears of joy in her eyes. "She looks just like you." "She looks like a disappointment," Chinedu hissed. He threw the suitcase onto the bed. "I told you, Amaka. I told you I wanted a son. You have failed me for the last time. My mother was right. You are a barren land that only grows weeds." "Chinedu, please." Amaka cried, clutching the baby tighter. "She is your blood. She is a human being." "She is a liability," he shouted, his voice echoing through the ward. "Pack your things. I have already sent my driver to bring my new wife, Beatrice, into the house. She is young. She will give me the lions I deserve. You and this thing in your arms. You are no longer part of the Okafor family. Get out." The nurses tried to intervene, but Chinedu's wealth and influence silenced them. That very night, still weak from childbirth, Amaka was forced out. She stood on the street corner, the rain soaking through her clothes, sheltering her 3-day-old daughter with her own body. She had no money, no home, and a husband who had turned into a monster. She looked down at the baby who was crying against her chest. "Don't cry, my daughter," Amaka whispered, her voice cracking with a vow that would change the future. "Your father thinks you are a curse, but I will make you a god. You will not just carry a name, you will hold the power of life and death. He will live to see the day he begs for the mercy of a girl." The years of fire. Amaka didn't go back to her village in shame. She knew that if she went back, the villagers would mock her. Instead, she moved to a one-room shack in the slums of Lagos. She sold pure water in traffic. She washed clothes for rich families until her hands were blistered and raw. Every kobo she made was saved for one thing: her daughter's education. She named the girl Adaze, meaning the daughter of a king. And Adaze grew up like a fire. She saw her mother's suffering. She saw the way her mother would skip meals so that Adaze could have a new textbook. One evening, when Adaze was 10 years old, she found her mother crying over a newspaper. On the front page was a picture of Chief Chinedu. He was celebrating the opening of a new hotel, flanked by his 2 sons from his second wife, Beatrice. The sons looked arrogant, dressed in designer lace. "Is that my father, Mama?" Adaze asked, her voice quiet but firm. Amaka wiped her eyes. "He is the man who gave you life, Adaze. But he is not your father. A father is a protector. He chose pride over us. He chose sons who will likely spend his money before he is even buried." Adaze touched the picture of the man who had rejected her. "One day, Mama, he will know my name. Not because I am his daughter, but because he cannot live without me." Adaze was a genius. She took the pain of her mother's struggle and turned it into fuel. She won scholarships. She spent her nights studying by the light of a kerosene lamp while the other children played in the streets. She made it into the best medical school in the country and later moved abroad on a full fellowship to specialize in neurosurgery. Meanwhile, back in the Okafor mansion, the lions Chinedu had longed for had turned into vultures. His 2 sons, Topchakwu and Keen, were spoiled and lazy. They crashed expensive cars, got into trouble with the law, and treated the staff like slaves. Beatrice, the second wife, only cared about the latest gold jewelry from Dubai. Chinedu was getting old. The stress of his failing businesses and the constant demands of his ungrateful family began to take a toll. One afternoon, during a heated argument with Keen over a missing 10 million naira, Chinedu suddenly felt a sharp, agonizing pain in his head. He clutched his chest, his vision blurring. "Dad? Dad, what's wrong?" Keen asked, but he didn't move to help. He was looking at the safe behind Chinedu's desk. Chinedu collapsed to the floor. Beatrice walked in, saw him gasping, and her first thought wasn't to call an ambulance. She whispered to Keen, "Go and get the land documents from the study before the lawyers arrive." It was the house help, a young girl from the village, who finally called for help. Chinedu was rushed to the city's most prestigious private hospital. The diagnosis was grim. He had a massive brain tumor that was pressing against his vital centers. He needed a surgery so complex that only 3 doctors in the world could perform it with a high success rate. "We are flying in the best specialist from the United States," the hospital director told a semi-conscious Chinedu. "She is a Nigerian, a brilliant woman who has never lost a patient in this type of procedure. She is expensive, but she is your only hope." Beatrice scoffed in the hallway. "A woman? You are bringing a woman to operate on my husband?" Chinedu hates women in authority. "Is there no male doctor?" The director looked at her with disdain. "Madam, you can wait for a male doctor if you want, but your husband will be dead by sunrise. This doctor is the best. Her name is Dr. Adaze Amaka." When the name was mentioned, Chinedu in his delirium felt a shiver. It was a common name, but it carried a weight he had tried to bury for 20 years. The day of the surgery arrived. The hospital was under heavy security because of Chief Chinedu's status. Dr. Adaze walked through the hallway, her footsteps echoing. She wore her surgical scrubs like armor. She walked into Chinedu's room for the pre-op evaluation. He was hooked up to a ventilator, his face swollen. She signaled for the nurses to leave. She stood at the foot of the bed. For 20 years she had imagined this moment. She thought she would feel rage. She thought she would want to walk away and let him die. But as she looked at him, she didn't see a powerful chief. She saw a pathetic, broken old man who had traded his soul for the legacy of 2 sons who were currently in the cafeteria eating jollof rice while he fought for his life. She moved to the side of the bed and pulled down her mask. Chinedu opened his eyes. He saw a face that was hauntingly familiar. It was the face of the woman he had loved long ago, but younger, stronger, and full of a cold, intellectual fire. "Amaka?" he wheezed, his voice barely a sound. "No," she said, her voice like ice. "Amaka is the woman you threw into the rain 20 years ago. Amaka is the woman who raised a curse by herself. I am Adaze. I am the daughter you said was a liability. Chinedu's eyes widened. He tried to move his hand, perhaps to reach out, perhaps to beg. Do you know where your sons are, Chief? Adaze asked, checking the foredrip. They are outside asking the lawyers if your will is updated. They aren't praying for your recovery. They are waiting for your signature so they can sell your empire. A choked sob escaped Chinedu's throat. I have spent my life proving that you were wrong, Adaze continued. I became a doctor so that I could hold the power you thought only men possessed. Right now your life is in my hands. With one small slip of my scalpel, the Chief Chinedu Okafor era ends. No one would even blame me. It's a high-risk surgery. Chinedu's heart monitor began to beep faster. Terror filled his eyes. He was looking at the daughter he rejected, and for the first time in his life he felt the crushing weight of his own karma. But, Adaze said, leaning closer, her eyes boring into his. My mother didn't raise a monster. She raised a healer. I will save you, Chief. Not because you deserve it, but because I want you to live. I want you to live and watch as the daughter you threw away becomes the greatest pride of your bloodline. I want you to live and realize that the sons you worshipped are the ones who will leave you in the dirt. She pulled her mask back up. See you in the theater, Chief. Try not to die yet. We have a lot of years of regret for you to catch up on. The double doors of the operating theater swung open with a heavy thud. Dr. Adaze walked in, her hands held high, already scrubbed. The room was cold, filled with the hum of advanced machinery and the scent of antiseptic. On the table lay Chief Chinedu, the man who had once been a titan, now reduced to a series of lines on a monitor. The surgical team stood ready. They looked at Adaze with reverence. To them she was a pioneer. To Chinedu she was a ghost. Scalpel, Adaze said. Her voice was flat, devoid of the emotion she had felt in the ICU. As she made the first incision, her mind flickered back to a memory. She was 6 years old. It was a school play, and every other girl had a father there to lift them up. She had watched a man about her father's age kiss his daughter's forehead. Adaze had turned to Amaka and asked, Mama, why doesn't my daddy want to see me perform? Amaka had knelt in the dirt, her hands still smelling of the laundry soap she used for work, and said, Because he is blind, Adaze. He cannot see the star right in front of him. Adaze's hand didn't shake. She navigated the delicate pathways of the human brain. 1 millimeter to the left and the chief would never speak again. 1 millimeter to the right and his heart would stop. Bipolar forceps, she commanded. The surgery lasted 7 hours. 7 hours of holding a man's life in the palm of her hand. While she fought to save him, she thought about the justice of it all. He had wanted a son to preserve his legacy, yet his sons were the very ones destroying it. He had thrown away a daughter, and that daughter was now the only reason his heart was still beating. Outside in the VIP waiting lounge, the atmosphere was vastly different. Beatrice, Chinedu's second wife, was on the phone with a real estate agent. Yes, the Lekki property, she whispered, her eyes darting around. I want to know if the deed can be transferred without a physical signature if he is incapacitated. My sons are the heirs. Just find a way. Topchaku, the eldest son, was lounging on a leather sofa, scrolling through a car catalog. Mom, if the old man pulls through, he's going to find out about that 10 million. We need to make sure the lawyer doesn't talk to him alone. Keen, the younger son, laughed. Did you see that doctor? He's arrogant. Who does she think she is? Once Dad is out of surgery, I'm going to report her for the way she spoke to us. No woman talks to an Okafor like that. Suddenly the elevator doors opened. A woman stepped out. She was dressed in a simple but expensive silk suit. Her hair was pulled back in a sophisticated bun. She moved with a grace that silenced the room. Beatrice stood up, her brow furrowed. Who are you? This is a private lounge for the Okafor family. The woman stopped and looked Beatrice in the eye. A small, cold smile touched her lips. I am Amaka, the woman who was here before you. The woman who actually built the foundation of the empire you are so busy trying to steal. Beatrice gasped. She remembered the stories. She remembered the woman Chinedu had discarded like a broken toy. What are you doing here? You were thrown out 20 years ago. You are a nobody. I am the mother of the woman who is currently opening your husband's skull to save his life, Amaka said, her voice like a velvet hammer. And I suggest you lower your voice. You are in a place of healing, though it seems there is nothing left in this family worth healing except the man on that table. Topchukwu stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. Listen, old woman, you have no right to be here. My father divorced you. You have no claim to his money. Amaka didn't flinch. She looked at Topchukwu with pity. Your father's money is the only thing you see, isn't it? You are so much like him, yet so much less than him. He was a lion who turned into a monster. You are just a house cat waiting for a bowl of milk. The surgery was a success. 2 days later, Chief Chinedu opened his eyes. The room was quiet. The harsh lights had been dimmed. He felt a hand on his pulse. He turned his head slowly. Dr. Adaze was there, checking his vitals. You're awake, she said. No, Daddy. No, Chief. Just a professional observation. Adaze. He croaked. His throat was dry. She held a straw to his lips. But you need to stay hydrated. You have a long road ahead of you. Your mother. Chinedu whispered. Is she? She is outside, Adaze said. She has been here every day. Unlike your wife and sons, who only come during visiting hours to ask the nurses if you've signed anything in your sleep. Chinedu closed his eyes. The physical pain was nothing compared to the realization that he had spent 20 years building a life with people who hated him, while the people who actually shared his blood were the ones he had treated as enemies. I want to see her, Chinedu said. She doesn't want to see you, Adaze replied truthfully. She is only here for me. She didn't want me to face the Okafor curse alone. Adaze, please, Chinedu's voice broke. I was wrong. I was evil. My sons, they are not men. They are nothing. I see that now. You see it because you are vulnerable, Adaze said, setting down her clipboard. If you were strong, you would still be shouting about your legacy. You didn't learn from love, Chief. You learned from pain. That is the tragedy of your life. She walked to the door and opened it. Amaka was standing there. She didn't enter. She just stood in the doorway, looking at the man she had once loved with her whole heart. Chinedu looked at her. The woman he had thrown into the rain was now the picture of success and peace. Amaka, forgive me. Amaka spoke, her voice calm and steady. I forgave you 20 years ago, Chinedu. Not for your sake but for mine. If I had carried the weight of your hatred, I never would have been able to lift Adaze as high as she is today. I don't want your money. I don't want your name. I just wanted you to see that the curse you rejected is the only hand that reached out to pull you back from death. That afternoon, Chinedu called his lawyer to the hospital. He also requested that Beatrice and his sons be present. Beatrice entered the room with a fake smile, clutching a designer handkerchief. Oh, Chinedu, my love. We were so worried. The boys have been praying day and night. Chinedu looked at his sons. They couldn't even meet his eyes. They were looking at the lawyer's briefcase. Is that so? Chinedu asked. He turned to the lawyer. Barrister, have you prepared the documents? Yes, Chief, the lawyer said, looking uncomfortable. Good, Chinedu said. He looked at Beatrice. I heard you were looking for the deeds to the Lekki property while I was under the knife. And Topchukwu, I heard you were already choosing a new color for my Rolls Royce. The room went ice cold. Beatrice's face turned gray. Chinedu, no. That's a lie. The nurses, they misunderstood. I am old, but I am not deaf, Chinedu thundered, a hint of his old power returning. And I have a very talented doctor who told me exactly what was happening in this hallway. He took the pen from the lawyer. 20 years ago I threw away my gold because I thought it was lead. And I kept the lead thinking it was gold. Today I am correcting my mistakes. He signed the papers with a shaky hand. I am divorcing you, Beatrice. You will leave my house with exactly what you brought into it. Nothing. And as for my lions. He looked at his sons. You are officially disowned. You have 1 week to find jobs. If you want to eat, you will work. You will not receive 1 kobo from the Okafor estate. Dad, you can't do this. Keen screamed. We are your sons. A son honors his father, Chinedu said. You only honored my bank account. Security was called and the 3 of them were escorted out of the hospital, screaming and protesting, their lives of luxury ending in a single afternoon. Chinedu turned to the lawyer. The rest of the estate, everything, I want it put in trust. Half for the foundation Dr. Adaze runs for medical scholarships and half for Amaka. Adaze stepped forward. We don't want your money, Chief. I know you don't, Chinedu said, a tear finally falling. That is why you are the only ones who deserve it. Please, let me do one thing right before I die. Even if it's 20 years too late. Adaze looked at her mother. Amaka nodded slowly. Chinedu reached out a hand. Adaze hesitated, then for the first time in her life she took her father's hand. It was cold and old, but it was a beginning. I won't call you father, Adaze said quietly. You haven't earned that title. But I will be your doctor. And I will make sure you live long enough to see the world change. Chief Chinedu smiled through his tears. He had lost his sons, he had lost his wife, and he had lost his pride. But in the ruins of his life he had finally found his family. Pride can blind a man to his own blessings. Never look down on anyone because of their gender or status, for the person you reject today may be the only one who can save you tomorrow. Karma has no deadline, and a mother's love and a daughter's strength are the most powerful forces in the universe. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up. It helps us know that these lessons are reaching you. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with someone who needs to hear that their curse is actually their greatest strength. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next story.